Goosebumps for Dummies here, and today, what the fuck am I? It is a special recording session in the day that you're seeing this video. I don't know when it's coming out, hopefully soon. I am finally discussing, in long-form video, my favorite kids' horror book ever. Snow Day! What the hell am I holding up? Well, let me give a brief for what the hell I'm talking about. This is Spinetinglers Book 7, 7th in the series, written by Robert Hawks, so it may not say so on the cover. So let me brief what the series is. Spinetinglers. I have plenty on my shelf back there. I'm pointing right at them. I even one on display. That's a banger. And Spinetinglers is a very rare Goosebumps knockoff. It is explicitly so, especially when you look at the taglines for Book 5. The author, Empty Coffin, is not a real person, but it's rather a pen name for various authors. Most notably George Edward Stanley. I don't know the guy's picture, if he even has a physical appearance we know of. But I believe he made the series, and he wrote a majority of the books. I'd say around half of it. There's also various other authors, like, you guessed it, Robert Hawks, but also a woman named Kathleen Dewey, and Jim Simon, Jim the Fleece, and so on and so forth. Many authors have contributed to this series, with varying quality, because obviously, you know, if you're having different people doing different books about every other book, it's like, well, yeah, it's going to be pretty varying in quality, especially if they're good or not. And some of these authors are either really good or really bad. And funny enough, Robert Hawks is one of the best, if not the best, kids horror author ever. And he's actually done 3 books for the series I know of. He might have done more, but there's really no accreditations online for any of the other books outside of, you know, backs of books. I don't know, because I don't own them all. But he did these 2 as well, and they're both great. This one's called My Teacher's a Bug. This is also one of my other favorite kids horror books ever. Trust me, it is way more than what the cover suggests. We also got Give Me Back My Brain, which is a talk on consciousness. It's a very, very long one for kids horror, since the font got really tiny all of a sudden. But a very good read, so check it out. Check both of these out, especially, like we're talking about today, Snow Day. Now, what the fuck is Snow Day? The book I've been hyping up. Well, like I said, this is my favorite kids horror book of all time, and that's not just for no reason. This book has so much to discuss, and so many, dare I say, avant-garde meanings to it, and themes, and ideas for what simply looks like a killer snowman story. It's from the cover, which, trust me, it is not, and turns into something way bigger than what you would expect for being even kids horror. This has got to be one of the craziest things ever, and I highly recommend, before I spoil the entire thing, which I will in this video when I get to the plot synopsis and all that, because I'll be retelling the entire thing, hopefully. Read it. Please, get your hands on it somehow. If you find it, just at least get it if you don't even want to read it, because it is very rare. You might be able to resell it for a quick buck. Just get your hands on this book and give it a read, if I do say so myself, because this is just a very nice piece of literature. Kids horror or not. So yeah, let me just brief the book before I actually get into spoiler briefing. This is basically a Snow Day story. It's a literal snow day. This kid is on the bus, and the bus so happens to break down, and it's a raging storm outside, and they really can't go anywhere. No one seems to be coming to pick them up, so they have to seek refuge somewhere after their bus kind of stops being a very safe place to be. There's a lot of dream talk in this book, and you don't really know what the hell is happening until the latter half. And it gets absolutely bonkers. So with that out of the way, what actually happens in Snow Day? Let's talk about it. This is your final warning. I am about to spoil the entire story beginning to end, and then after this we'll talk about the meanings and my personal praises for this, because this is amazing. So do yourself a favor and try to find the book, but if you're just interested in hearing about what the hell I'm about to talk about, and you don't really care for Goosebumps knockoffs, which is absolutely fine, then stick around. Let's do this. This is taken from my Goodreads review, so here is my official retelling of the book. Debbie awakes from a dream about an asteroid being confirmed to smack into Earth to a cold winter morning. A snow day is due, but so is school, and she prays on the bus that school is cancelled. It is, but at an awful timing. Debbie, 5 schoolmates, and Milo, the bus driver, find themselves quickly stuck in a ditch thanks to the raging blizzard. And thanks to the bus leaking carbon monoxide, they have to ditch the warmth and seek refuge somewhere else. Thanks to the militarized town they reside in, and homes are scarce in favor of fields and trees. During the entire intro to this book, there are chapters strewn throughout that are the dreams of some of the kids. They are evidently awesome by the kids' personal desires, like being an underwater explorer or a king of an earth inhabited by people and dragon aliens, and then some. They're all weirdly interrupted by Debbie, and they end with not much to go off except that there's a lurking threat. Cut back to the main plot, they eventually come to a mansion, Mose Maze Manor. Sorry, that is unlocked, power on, but devoid of people. Things take a dark turn. When they enter, Debbie and a few of her mates come across a freezer. Everyone else, including Milo, are off exploring, looking for people or getting things working. A kid opens the freezer and Debbie and the kids immediately fall into their own dreams, forgetting whatever they saw instantly for unknown reasons. Once they awake, they're confused, obviously, and find the freezer now has a lock on it, as if someone doesn't want them going in there. A few minutes later, event spirals, they find their winter gear completely missing, and one of the kids, the girl they dubbed the Fritch, is missing as well. Debbie goes to search for her, and that's when, heading up the stairs, she finds only a wall at the top of the stairs, and then a wall at the bottom which is just slid into place, trapping her. Yeah, she's trapped. Eventually she slips into another dream, this one about medieval times. She then awakes in a bedroom where reality is literally talking to her through book titles. Something wants her to dream, to sleep. She disregards the words and finds the way out of the room into corridors in the walls. Whoever's house it is, they have peepholes and secret doors leading in and out of rooms, for whatever reasons. Perverted maybe? I don't know. Once she leaves behind the corridor, reality seems to warp more as she enters another bedroom, finds a diary with text directly talking to her, enticing her to dream as usual, and then exits the room to the main corridor only to find two Milos walking separate ways. Finally, the big confrontation happens. Soon she tries to leave the house now with a clear shot to leave, but she slips into another dream. In the dream, and through many get setting switches and conversations meekly interrupted by intervals, Debbie learns from Milo that he and his other selves from different points in time are trying to put the kids in enforced dreams, as they call them, of their own desires and wants. Don't do this to hormonal teenagers. Lord knows. All the whilst preserving them in the freezer, which, when she and her pals opened it earlier, they were wiped of the image of themselves, all hooked up to tubes and draining them ever so slowly of their blood, all to help people thrive in a distant future where the whole planet is one big city. AKA, Milo is a time-traveling fucking vampire who likes kid blood. And though everyone does, apparently. What the fuck? It is worth mentioning Milo tries to lie up, a story about how the house was their mother's, who went mad since their father worked the gallows and couldn't fathom blood money. She went berserk and made the house another maze. Hence, the name of the manor. Mose Maze Manor, sorry. This is a lie, maybe, but it could hold some truth, especially if that's your interpretation of the story. Debbie tries to save one of her friends from the dream world after evading Milo, but to no avail. Debbie confronts the Milos once more, but learns that she's been evading settling in the dream world for 19 years, and that she's 32 years old by then. She faints from the shock, even though she's already asleep, so dreaming a dream, yada yada, and awakes in the freezer. What? An older version of Milo is letting her escape, and he thinks she can change the course of history with her friends so the future doesn't need vampires, as Debbie called them rightfully. Yeah, because they're fucking vampires. Life goes on. Their bus is driven by Milo, who never tries to bring them there again, nor mentions it, causing Debbie to assume what she was told to tell the others was true. The whole thing was a hypothermia-induced nightmare. However, when in math class, an eerily familiar scene to the intro of the book plays out. You know, Cats in the Cradle. And it makes her wonder if the dream she finally settled on was an illusion of her freedom. Wowzers. I'm back. Sorry. So now that you've got the entire plot of this book run through your head, so it's fresh in your mind maybe, or if you just don't want to read it, which is a-okay, I at least want to share this amazing story. What the fuck? We'll talk about the meanings and interpretations in a minute. Right now I want to discuss all the things that make up this book and why it's so great without delving into the more what the fuck avant-garde shit. So let's just talk about the other stuff. Starting off the writing. The writing is great. Robert Hawks, dude, you are talented. And his style changes a bit every book. My Teacher the Bug is pretty different. It feels more kids' horror standard, but still really good stuff. And then you have Give Me Back My Brain, which feels more straightforward, but really good. And again, he's just a great writer. He's always able to make a great style per book. And this, yeah, you can tell just immediately that there's going to be some methodical shit going on here. And he portrays that very well, and I think this is a very well-crafted story, just from a writing standpoint. Very good. And going on with that, the plot itself, taking it literally, it's just a very fucking bonkers, amazing idea for a book in general, let alone kids' book. Hell yeah. Indies Kid's a damn good book in what could have easily been an adult book, or YA at least. It's just, you know, it makes my day. I love to see that for this genre, because kids deserve great books. Milo himself, too, the main villain, I guess, of this book, or at least the present one, which we'll get to. He's awesome. I love all of the things he does to misdirect you, and also to just bring forth this crazy plot, and all these crazy innuendos and themes. He kinda is a part of a catalyst. That'll make sense later. Yeah, he's a catalyst for a lot of this stuff, and he's literally a vampire, if you will, too. There's so many things going on with him, but I just love his character. There's even themes like maybe he's a vampire in general, maybe a pedo vampire, too. It's like, oh, and he's a very messed up, but also kind of reasonable villain if you take his words literally, with also a very convoluted backstory, if you even want to take all his Mad Owl stuff and crazy mom and on or whatever. Just wow. And also the Mole's Manor, that's just a crazy place in general. Love the setting, love the atmosphere of this book with all the crazy dream sequences and all those individual worlds and ideas and places. The Snow Day vibes in the first half that are kind of abandoned in the second for a more fucking Winchester-ass thing going on with methodical dreams, sci-fi shit. Just so good. Love the settings and atmosphere building throughout this one, and the ending is just fantastic, whatever way you interpret it. So yeah. Let's go to the subtextual stuff. So we're going to talk about some interpretations and some themes, starting off with the interpretations of this book, or at least some of the more general ones. There are so many different ways to look at it, but let's start with the most drip-fed one. It's all a bunch of mass disillusions of varying kinds and origin. I already don't make sense. Let me explain. There's points in the book where it basically tells you maybe this is a hyperthermic episode and none of this shit is happening. They're all just having some crazy dream, which would make sense. The whole book's about dreams, and there's evidently dreams in this book. There's also the fact that there was a carbon monoxide leak in the bus very early in the book that made them have to leave. And they did fall asleep, or at least one of them did, during a chapter between when they realized it and got off. Or something there. And it's like, there's a chance that maybe they didn't leave and they all just succumbed to the carbon monoxide, which is dark. This whole book is dark as shit anyways, but very dark interpretation. And there's also the idea that maybe this is all just some cabin fever episode. This is all literally just in their head madness, you know? It is absolute chaos, whatever you interpret, if you think it is some kind of giant disillusion. Something a bit more far-fetched that I picked up on was the fact that they weirdly mentioned that it was a very governed town. And there's the fact that this main character's father, one of them wears snow boots when they weren't even going to go outside much, except that they so happened to do so. They had to trek like a mile to this random fucking manor. Which is not very random, as we learned, but yeah. So it's like, maybe the government was in on it. Yeah, that's my next interpretation. This might have been a government plan to have these kids do this shit. Maybe Milo was working with the government. We don't know. It might be some crazy shit and we have no idea what it even means. It might have something to do with the Cat in the Cradle intro. Maybe, I don't know. It's just chaotic. Seriously, it's hard to interpret genuine, like, concrete things about this book outside of the basic plot, and that's already pretty iffy. There's something I picked up on, which is kind of obvious if you remember the intro of the book, and it's the fact that this might just be a loop story, which I think is pretty much confirmed. The intro to the book ends with this main character sitting in class, and their teacher's like, oh shit, the cat's in the cradle, after someone tells them that. And the cat in the cradle refers to, which is actually, I believe, a throw-off thing, and it'll lead into my next big theory, which is fucking out there. The fact that there's an asteroid coming to hit Earth, implying impending doom. I don't think there's actually one, but we'll get to that later. And then they wake up, and they hear the whisper, is this the dream you asked for? Or something along this line. So you get the idea. It's crazy. And guess how the book ends? Pretty much the same way, minus the waking up part. And it also ends with the line, let me just read it. What if the illusion Debbie had settled on was her freedom? Yeah. So, the book might just be a fucking loop since it ends with the same thing. The teacher getting information that the cat is in the cradle, or at least it's implied it's the same info or something similar. And now, getting on with it, I think this also combines with the loop ending. I think this is the craziest interpretation you can look at us from, whilst it also making a lot of sense. And this is going to sound crazy and far-fetched, but there's a lot of evidence, at least to support parts of this. Maybe I just don't have the right image. There's a secret character in this book, one we never meet. And I don't think it's Milo or one of his clones. I think it's someone controlling everyone, including Milo. And it's a cat. There's a creature in this book represented by a cat, and there's two key things to make this make sense. There is the fact that there is a poem about a cat and a rat in a maze, and the cat chasing the rat. It's supposed to obviously, and I believe the book points it out, parallel what the hell's happening in the story. They're all rats in a maze, but they think it's Milo, I believe. Or at least that's how you're supposed to look at it. But no, I think this actually represents all of them, the rat. And this cat's someone else. Which gets me to the painting. In the main part of the manor, there is a cat painting which is brought up twice. So it's not completely useless. And it's brought up in big detail, like, it's important. And this painting's already confirmed haunted to some kind of extent, whether it just be part of the dream's wackiness, or it's literally haunted, or something. But this painting is of a cat sitting atop the stairs, or at least that's what it is at first. The first time they see it, the main character notes that their eyes seem very real, like they're actually watching them. And then later on, when they're in Milo's madness stream with all the clone Milos, later on, this cat is up front and center at the bottom of the stairs, at least further down, and is just gazing at you. It's even more explicitly, there's something behind there watching you, or at least it's being represented with the cat. And that, my friends, is some kind of secret entity behind all this shit. And the biggest thing supporting that this entity is in control of everything outside of the poem, and that this isn't Milo, is the cats in the cradle. We never really understand what that means in the intro and the outro, if you imply that is the same news that the teacher got. Asteroids coming. Well, it's not an asteroid, I don't think. What the cat in the cradle truly is, because the asteroid doesn't seem to have a lot of relevance, does it? No, and it was initially just a dream. I don't think it's an asteroid. I think it's a metaphor, or a weird way of saying impending doom. Because that's what it is, impending doom. Because it seems like this obviously brings hysteria and panic. Obviously. It's pretty bad. No shit. And that would be the same if there was a being, represented by a cat in this book, who is going to do a new cycle, because this book is a loop of torment. And that brings me to the daydream theory. To put it as simply as humanly possible, the theory that I have dubbed the cat's cradle dreams is referring to the cat in the cradle metaphor, which is an analogy for impending doom. And the cat, the entity, is daydreaming. The cradle. Maladaptive daydreaming, which is the best of both worlds for this book's theming of desire and wants and metaphorical dreams about what you want to do with your life, and literal dreams. Because they're dreaming a lot in this book. Best of both worlds for both themes. And it basically means that this entire book is the maladaptive daydream of an absolute fucking psychopath, or actually be some sort of cat god, or just a normal person. We don't know what the hell they are, they're just an entity that exists. Whether it's a normal human, or maybe an astral being, or just an alien, we don't know. But they really like to fucking torture people, or at least mentally. So yeah, it's some maladaptive daydream nightmare. For Debbie, at least. We have no idea what the hell this cat creature, or at least what it's represented as by a cat, is. But yeah, that's my theory, is that with the knowledge is that there is a cat character being referenced for this cat painting that's watching them. I don't think it's Milo. I don't think it is. It's probably someone else in control of the entire story, which means it's a dream of someone else. Debbie's not even a real person. Or maybe she is. We don't know. And that's all of the crazy interpretations that I'd like to put in this video. There's still a few more things you can interpret from this book, whether it be minor or major. So yeah, now for some theming. What is this book generally about from a moral lesson standpoint? Because there's got to be something to take away here, and I actually think there's two broader ideas. They're both about dreams. Yeah. With all the heavy emphasis on these kids fitting into these dreams that they so much like, but them still being dreams and not reality, it's clearly going for a follow your dreams kind of, analogy. And I think that's perfect. That makes sense for a book so heavily reliant on dreams, is that stop getting wound up in dreams and go make these dreams reality, like Debbie wants. She wants to go back into reality. She likes these realities and their friends like their own realities, but it's just not reality. That's her big problem, and she represents that urge to actually go and do this in the real world, while Marlowe is kind of the opposite. Obviously, Miles got other intentions, but you get the idea. From just a basic standpoint, that's what it means. Follow your dreams, stop living in actual dreams. And make them a reality, not just let them be dreams. And there's a more broader theme with all of the, and this is more subtextual, names like Mole's Manor. It sounds a little bit like laze, lazy. And obviously there's some lines in the book that kind of hint at being lazy or sleeping in. It basically means just go do something. Go do something with your life. Go see some sights, kind of like they want to in their dreams. And this kind of ties into the other theme, but a little more specific. The book's just telling you go do something with your life. Some of us need to hear that, like me. But yeah, some theming that this book is presenting, which I think is pretty nice messages. And yeah, those are my personal theories about this book. I have a few more in my Goodreads review and some other analogies, but if you want to go see those, go to my Goodreads account. I have the review link in the description. So yeah, go do that if you wish, and leave your own ideas down below about what this book is actually about. Do that. So yeah. Let's get to the outro. So what do I believe is the interpretation? The broad cat one with the loop ending. I think the most concrete thing is the fact that the book does not have a happy ending. I think it's really supposed to be interpreted that way, or else it wouldn't have left on such a sour note where it's like, ooh, maybe they didn't get out. I don't think they did. I think that's pretty concrete, especially with the intro matching the outro, but it's probably also, most concretely, a loop ending. And there's a lot of stuff really thrown in there to throw you off. And I didn't even mention all that haunted house bullshit they threw in there, which I don't think is bad. I just think it's not exactly padding, but more stuff to throw in there to give you more stuff to chew on for what the themes of and ideas are of this book. Robert Hawks is the author of this book once again, and he just did a great job. My compliments to the chef, and I highly recommend checking this out if you can somehow get your hands on it. I really hope you can. It's a great book. Sometimes this book comes on for a decent price, so keep looking. Check out his other work too. My Teacher's Bug is pretty accessible, and it is just a great sci-fi, fantastical kids horror book about alternate universes, if you could believe it from the title. Also, love the cover. This is peak. And speaking of cover arts, I do want to mention real briefly the cover art for Snow Day. We have no idea who did the art for this, or at least I don't. I can't find anything online. And the sad part is there's no creditations in the book, unlike some other kids horror work where it does credit the artist. I have no clue. I thought it was Mark Garrow, maybe? Nope. Maybe it's Brock Sedman. I can't tell. I believe it is probably a known kids horror artist, but I can't tell really, and I can't find a digital scan of this artwork anywhere online. So please, someone do that maybe. Or if you have the original painting somehow, or if you know the artist, please give me some info or share. And generally, tell me what you think about this book below and these reviews. I really have a lot of fun making these. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. What a good one to record.